Morgan Rogers has completed an £117 million move from Aston Villa to Stamford Bridge, becoming the most expensive British player in history. The fee has sparked plenty of debate. Is he really worth that much? Have Chelsea overpaid? And perhaps the biggest question of all, does Morgan Rogers actually fit into Xabi Alonso's football? Today, we're breaking down the tactics behind the move, why Chelsea wanted him, and why he doesn't actually need to be the same Morgan Rogers we saw at Aston Villa to become a success. £117 million, that's the headline, not only because Chelsea are spending big again, but also because it surpasses the previous British transfer record. So naturally, that creates expectations. At Villa, Rogers established himself as one of the Premier League's most exciting attackers. Still only 23, he'd helped Villa qualify for the Champions League twice in 3 seasons and lifted the Europa League. Arsenal have admired him for months, and there were reports that suggested Mikel Arteta made him a priority target. But Arsenal hesitated over the price tag and Chelsea didn't. Whether he's worth £117 million or not is one debate, but whether he'll improve Chelsea is another. And those aren't necessarily the same conversation. One of the reasons that Chelsea convinced Rogers was his tactical flexibility. Instead of promising him one role, they promised several, and that's really important because of what it tells us about Xabi Alonso. The new Blues manager isn't expected to use just one system. At Bayer Leverkusen, he primarily used a 3-4-3, and at Real Madrid, he showed more flexibility with a 4-2-3-1. Chelsea already appear to be preparing for both, which suits Rogers as he fits into both systems. In a back three, he'd likely play as one of the 2 attacking midfielders in behind the striker, while in a 4-2-3-1, he'd start from the left but drift centrally. His versatility is exactly what made him so dangerous at Villa, and it's arguably one of the biggest reasons Chelsea invested so heavily. Where the debate becomes really interesting is when we look at how Rogers actually suits Xabi Alonso's football. At Bayer Leverkusen, Alonso's side dominated possession. They built attacks patiently, played through tight spaces and won the ball back high and controlled territory. Morgan Rogers is almost the opposite. He's fantastic when there's space to attack. Last season, he ranked among the Premier League's very best for carrying the ball into dangerous areas. Only Cody Gakpo and Matheus Cunha produced more shot-ending carries and very few players created more chances following carries. When Rogers has space, he is almost impossible to stop, but in tighter spaces, the numbers become a bit more average. His dribble success and passing under pressure wasn't of the same standard. And that's why some people wonder whether Alonso's possession-heavy style will limit Rogers. But the counter-argument is that Alonso's system will look different in the Premier League. Florian Wirtz flourished under Alonso at Leverkusen. That doesn't mean Rogers is going to be asked to perform the same role, because Chelsea probably won't dominate games as heavily as Leverkusen did in the Bundesliga. There will naturally be more transition moments compared to the German league, and that's where Rogers becomes incredibly valuable. And even if Chelsea do spend more time with the ball, Rogers offers something else, his movement. Last season, only 4 Premier League players made more off-ball runs. He constantly attacks the box and stretches defences. Plus, with João Pedro likely dropping deeper as a false 9, Rogers could regularly attack the space beyond him. And that dynamic could actually suit him perfectly. Instead of carrying the ball 40 yards, he may become the runner finishing attacks. One area of his game that doesn't get enough attention is finishing. Since making his Premier League debut, Rogers has massively outperformed his XG. He's constantly scored spectacular strikes from distance, and among Premier League players, very few have scored more goals from outside the box over the past 2 seasons. That's massive because against deep defensive blocks, which we've seen a lot more of this summer, moments of quality often decide games. Even when he doesn't score, his shooting creates rebounds and second balls, as we all saw for that England game during the World Cup. And that's another weapon that Chelsea are buying. The biggest misconception around this transfer is that Morgan Rogers has to replicate exactly what he did at Aston Villa in order to be a success. He doesn't. His role will almost certainly evolve under Alonso. Instead of being Chelsea's transition outlet, he could become their off-ball runner. And instead of carrying attacks himself, he could be finishing moves created by others. If Alonso can avoid forcing him into a rigid role, Rogers could become one of the Premier League's most complete attacking players. So £117 million, yes, it's a gamble, but do you think it'll be worth it?